A wire? Okay. All right, what I'm gonna do is a blade technique. I'm just gonna go below the breast, okay? And then you're wearing a dress. Other than that, you don't have anything stuffed in your bra?
No.
Okay. Okay. And then is this just an outer?
Yeah,
okay.
You can take it off.
No, you can keep it on. I'm just making sure I'm not missing anything. Can you turn towards me? Open up your mouth. Lift up your tongue. Okay. And then I will help you. I know it's a big step.
I'm only 5 foot.
I know. I feel it. Yep.
Thank you.
Okay. And scoot your butt a little forward, and you're going to be able to lean back and put your arms right here. So it's kind of a cutout.
What
Yeah.
happens with my car?
We're gonna tow your car,
Okay.
and whenever we're gonna bring you down to our station, okay, you're gonna speak to a detective, and they'll kind of explain what's gonna happen. So if you have any questions, I know you want to know the answers now, but I can't provide you those answers because I don't know that information. But I can tell you right now, the car is gonna be towed.
She would like to reach the podium, Your Honor.
I want to start off by apologizing to the victim and his family. I'm sorry for any undue stress or pain that I may have caused. I'm ashamed of my actions and am completely remorseful and truly regret what took place.
Some cases stop you cold, not just because of what happened, but because of who did it, because of how carefully it was hidden, and because of how long it went on before anyone in a position to stop it actually did. This is the story of Brittany Zamora, a 6th grade teacher, an award-winning educator, a 27-year-old woman who by every outward appearance had built a life worth being proud of, a stable marriage, a career she was recognized for, students and colleagues who genuinely liked her, and underneath all of it, a pattern of behavior so calculated, so deliberate, and so devastating that it would eventually cost her the next 2 decades of her freedom. Let's go back to the beginning. Brittany Ann Zamora was born on January 5th, 1991. By 2017, she was teaching 6th grade at Las Brisas Academy, part of the Liberty Elementary School District in Goodyear, Arizona. She was married to a man named Daniel Zamora. She had awards on her wall, she had the trust of an entire school community, and she had access to a classroom full of children. It started, as these things so often do, with something that looked completely normal. The school used a communication app, a platform called Classcraft, sometimes referred to in reports as Class Dojo, designed to keep students and teachers connected. Zamora encouraged her entire class to message her personally through it. She even told them casually that she might get bored during the school day and that they should feel free to reach out. It sounded friendly. It sounded like something a warm, approachable teacher would say. One 13-year-old boy in her class took her up on that offer. What started as ordinary back-and-forth messages about school didn't stay that way for long. The conversations shifted. They got personal. Then they got inappropriate. Then they became something no child should ever experience with an adult who holds authority over them. Declarations of love started appearing in their messages. Affectionate language exchanged between a grown woman and a 13-year-old boy. She sent him deeply inappropriate messages of a sexual nature. She made graphic and disturbing requests that no adult should ever direct toward a child. He was manipulated into sending her compromising images of himself. She sent him inappropriate images of herself in return. An emotional and psychological bond was being constructed, piece by piece, built on the enormous gap in power between a trusted adult and a young adolescent who had no framework for understanding what was actually being done to him. And then it stopped being digital. Before Christmas of 2017, following what should have been a completely routine parent-teacher conference, Zamora pulled the boy back into her classroom after everyone else had gone. She grabbed his shirt, pulled him close, and crossed a line that no teacher should ever cross. That moment, that calculated, deliberate moment, was the beginning of something that would get far worse before anyone stopped it. Over the weeks and months that followed, the abuse escalated in ways that are genuinely difficult to process. Serious incidents of a criminal nature took place multiple times inside the classroom itself. And not after hours, not in an empty building, but sometimes while other students were sitting just a few feet away, working quietly on assignments, or watching an educational video, completely unaware of what was happening in their own classroom. Court documents confirm that the abuse reached its most severe level at least twice in that setting. One of those incidents happened during preparations for a school talent show. To make sure they weren't caught, Zamora recruited another student to help her. A second 13-year-old boy in the class was asked to stand by the classroom door and act as a lookout to watch the hallway and warn them if anyone was coming. That boy later sat down with investigators and described the experience as deeply unsettling. He told them that Zamora had asked him invasive and highly inappropriate questions of a personal nature and had shown him disturbing content on her phone. When asked what he made of the whole situation, he said simply that she wasn't a good person and that he genuinely couldn't understand how a 27-year-old woman could claim to love a 13-year-old child. The abuse wasn't confined to the school building either. Late at night, while her husband was supposedly away on fishing trips, Zamora would reach out to the boy through their messages and arrange to meet him. He would sneak out of his grandparents' house in the middle of the night. She would pick him up or meet him in secluded locations. In her dark red Mazda, parked somewhere in the dark, further criminal acts took place. One of those encounters was interrupted midway by a phone call from her husband. The digital trail left behind was extensive and deeply troubling. Text messages recovered by investigators were filled with manipulative and affectionate language designed to make this child feel as though they were in a genuine relationship. There were sticky notes found in the classroom handwritten messages that mixed affectionate language with disturbing and inappropriate references. The documentation of what this boy had been subjected to was overwhelming. By January of 2018, the secret was starting to crack at the edges. Rumors had begun spreading through the student body. Kids were whispering that something was going on between Zamora and the boy. Some rumors were wildly exaggerated. There were even false claims circulating that she was expecting a child by him. The school principal became aware of the gossip. And the response? Students were told to stop spreading rumors. The boy's parents were never contacted. The matter was not escalated. And the abuse continued. It finally ended because of a parental monitoring app. In March of 2018, the victim's parents installed an application called Sentry on their son's phone. The app flagged a series of Instagram messages in which the boy was using deeply familiar and affectionate language toward his teacher. When his parents confronted him, he broke down. He told them everything. The full extent of what had been happening to him came pouring out. And the weight of what his family heard in that moment is almost unimaginable. They didn't stop there. They recorded a phone call in which they confronted Zamora directly. On that call, both Brittany and her husband Daniel pleaded with them desperately, urgently not to go to the police. Daniel Zamora told them his wife was still a good teacher, as if that somehow changed what she had done. The family reported the abuse anyway. The principal contacted law enforcement, and on March 22, 2018, police pulled Zamora over in a traffic stop and placed her under arrest. Body camera footage from that arrest captured the moment her composure collapsed entirely. She was visibly panicked. She said things like, "I'm little, they're going to tear me apart in jail." She said she just wanted to go home to her husband. The woman who had spent months carefully orchestrating a secret criminal relationship with a child was now sitting in the back of a police car, watching the life she had built disappear in real time. She was held on a bond of $250,000, placed on administrative leave, and eventually surrendered her teaching certificate in December of 2018. Prosecutors came at her hard. The initial charges filed against her included 8 counts of criminal conduct with a minor, 2 counts of child endangerment and misconduct, 1 count of transmitting harmful and obscene material to a minor, and additional allegations tied to the second student's involvement. It was a serious and comprehensive set of charges. In June of 2019, Zamora accepted a plea deal. She pleaded guilty to 3 reduced counts: criminal conduct with a minor, attempted misconduct toward a child, and an additional offense related to inappropriate behavior in a setting accessible to others. The remaining charges were dropped as part of the agreement. On July 12, 2019, she stood before Maricopa County Superior Court Judge Sherry Stevens and received her sentence. The minimum term available under the plea deal, 20 years in state prison, followed by lifetime probation and mandatory lifetime registration as a sex offender. Maricopa County Attorney Bill Montgomery called it a fitting consequence for someone who had exploited her position of trust to manipulate and abuse a young teenager. The moment that stayed with many people who followed this case happened during the sentencing hearing itself. The victim's mother stood up and looked directly at Brittany Zamora and said 4 words that carried the full weight of everything her family had been through. "You stole my son's innocence." The family described what had happened to their child in the aftermath, the dramatic changes in his behavior, the severe disruption to his education, and ultimately the decision to uproot their entire lives and move away just to escape the shadow of what had been done to him. Zamora's defense team had tried, in the lead-up to the plea, to suggest that the 13-year-old had been aggressive and obsessed with her, that she had somehow been pursued by the child rather than the other way around. They also pointed fingers at the school for not separating them sooner. But by entering that guilty plea, Zamora accepted legal responsibility for every bit of what she had done. No courtroom argument could undo that. The Liberty Elementary School District faced its own reckoning. A civil lawsuit filed by the victim's family alleged that the school had been made aware of student complaints and early warning signs months before the abuse was discovered and had done nothing meaningful about it. That lawsuit settled in 2019 for an undisclosed amount. Zamora was sent to the Arizona State Prison Complex in Perryville, housed in the Santa Cruz Unit, an adult women's facility. In May of 2020, she filed for divorce from her husband, Daniel, stating in court documents that the marriage was broken beyond repair. Over the years inside, she cycled through various prison work assignments. She started in the kitchen. She briefly worked as a tutor for other inmates, a role that drew immediate and sharp public criticism when it became known. More recently, as of April 2025, she has taken on a role as a fitness instructor for fellow prisoners. She has also completed prison courses centered on self-control, family relationships, and social values. A photograph taken in 2024 showed her with dark brown hair, a noticeable change from the blonde hair she had during her arrest, and by all accounts, she has adapted to the routines of prison life. In 2024, a true crime documentary released on YouTube brought a new wave of public attention back to this case, featuring raw body camera footage from the arrest, interrogation clips, parent interviews, and school administrator statements. Millions of people who had never heard of Brittany Zamora were suddenly watching her story unfold for the first time. As of early 2026, she has served just over 6 years of that 20-year sentence. According to Arizona Department of Corrections records, her projected release date is around March 16, 2038. When that day comes, she will walk out of prison and directly into a lifetime of probation supervision. She will be required to register as a sex offender for the rest of her life. She will never again be allowed near a classroom. What this case shows us, with painful clarity, is how grooming actually works. It doesn't begin with something obviously alarming. It begins with something that looks completely reasonable: a school communication app, an open invitation to message a teacher, a friendly and approachable adult who seems to genuinely care. And then, slowly and deliberately, boundaries are pushed. Secrecy is built. Emotional dependency is manufactured. And by the time any physical harm occurs, the groundwork has been so carefully laid that the child often doesn't even have language for what is being done to them. A 13-year-old child cannot consent to any of this. There is no version of this story in which that boy made a choice. The power gap between them was absolute, and Brittany Zamora knew exactly what she was doing at every step. The only reason this stopped when it did was because 2 parents paid attention, installed a monitoring app, and refused to be talked out of doing the right thing when a grown woman and her husband begged them to stay quiet. That vigilance saved their son from further harm, but it couldn't give back what had already been taken. And that is something this family will carry for the rest of their lives.